Good morning. It's no real secret that religion is on the decline, that churches are aging and declining, and there's less people turning up on Sunday mornings than there did 50 or even 100 years ago when churches were full and brimming. People are less likely to be inclined to go to church, and all the crises in the church have eroded the confidence and trust that people had in church. Canadian philosopher Charles Taylor speaks about the secular age in which we live, a world view in Western society that's highly secular. He calls it the immanent frame. The material, physical world is really all that is for most people. What you can touch and see and hear and smell and taste, what you can analyse and control and organise. And there's no room for God or transcendence, those things beyond. At the same time that this decline in religiosity, in organised religion, in faith, there's an increase in anxiety and depression and people not belonging and anxious about life and where they fit. There's this, what I would call existential alienation, this alienation of existence, this separation of or alienation from one another, from our very selves, from the earth, and of course from God. Religious faith gives people an identity. Sometimes that identity is really good, sometimes it's not. And we see the bad expressions and those negative and difficult and horrible expressions of faith and the crises in the church have further eroded confidence and trust. And yet God is there. And Charles Taylor speaks, interestingly, that when we erode this belief in God, when we say that there is no God, there's still a spiritual yearning within people, and it breaks out in myriad ways. Sometimes it's spiritualities, all kinds of spiritualities. Some manifest in practical, physical things, some in other ways. People yearn. We all have deep yearnings and hopes and dreams, and we all want peace. We all want the kinds of things that deep and profound Christianity and other religions too speaks of. But as I walk through the city, particularly Parramatta, my local city, and I see the religiosity of people, the desire to worship, the addictive qualities of life, I go into the big mall and there's everything on display, anything that anyone could want to buy. If you've got enough money, it's there. And the seductive voices and advertising and the way that these things are presented. You go in and you're welcomed and you talk about this product or that one and you hand over your money, you make your offering and you get this, and then you're greeted and blessed as you go. It's very ritualistic and almost religious. The world of the shopping centre is filled with all the things that we could ever dream of or want or need or not need, but told we must have. And as I leave that and I walk through Parramatta Square, there's the library, the new library, a place of learning, of gathering, of learning courses, reading books and information and knowledge. And just down from that, there's Western Sydney University, where students go to get degrees and higher degrees and learn more and get a better career and job. And then all around are these skyscraper buildings with offices, men and women climbing each day to get higher and higher and look down over the city that in some little way or measure they might control or want to control. And further down, there's the stadium, Parramatta Stadium, in all its glory and wonder. And it's filled with fans coming out for the game. In winter, it's blue and gold. In summer, it's red and black. As people wear their jerseys and uniforms, sing their songs, and idolize their fans and their heroes and chant and get behind the gladiators on the field doing battle. Just next to that is the club. And in the club, there's restaurants and gathering places, but also there's the poker machines, the gambling dens, where people go and sit for hours putting in money and in the hope of winning more and winning and winning. There's the Keno and other things up on the screens. In every way, as I wander through this city, I see religiosity. I see people worshipping something or someone, or people wanting more or doing this, kneeling before the altars of our world, hoping, dreaming for something. This week we hear the story of Paul, the apostle, who walked into the streets of Athens, ancient Athens. And he was at first taken aback by all the statues of all the gods, all the artifacts of gods and God worship, to this God and that God and that God and someone else. And there, at the end, there was a statue to an unknown God. And as he listened to the poets and the philosophers and walked through the marketplace and engaged with people and shared his own story of faith and transformation, the people got interested. And they invited him to the Areopagus, this rock outcrop of rock, a place where they came to talk legal matters or to debate philosophy or the new and latest idea. It's kind of the birthplace of democracy, really. They came to listen. They invited Paul to come and share this new spirituality, this new God. What's this? This new thing that he was talking about. And in it, Paul says, I see that you Athenians are very religious people. For there's a statue to every god. And I notice one down the end, the unknown God. Let me tell you about the unknown God. And then he speaks of this experience he's had, this transformation in his own life, this God who has touched him in Christ and given him new life, turned his life around, his way of seeing, given him new insight. And he speaks of this God in their own terms. He says, God is not confined to temples and shrines. God is very close, not very far from any one of you. In fact, God is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We live in this God, whether we recognize it or not. This God is all around us and through us. God is revealed in the very air we breathe and the water we drink, in the flowers and trees, in the world that we see, in the sunrise and sunset, in the animals and creatures, in one another, in the poetry and songs and ideas that we have of our creativity, the music and stories. God is there in the mystery and the wonder of life, in the beauty. And I think this is what each of us yearn for. This something that is beyond what we can see and touch and feel. We all get caught up in the thrust of life, trying to achieve or do what we're supposed to do, find our way in the ways that others tell us. And yet, there come points and points and points along the way when we recognize that doesn't truly work. And we're looking for something more, something deeper. Maybe it's in the crisis of life. Maybe it's when we feel terribly alone and need a place to belong. Maybe it's when we feel at our lowest that we're unworthy, we're hopeless, we're useless, we're not as good as anyone else. Maybe it's when we feel the deep grief and loss. And so many of the funerals that I've taken over the years, people are yearning for something, to know something about what happens next, what is beyond. Not many of them believe that that's it. There's nothing more. They want and need. There's something in us that yearns for this something more beyond life, this mystery, this paradox that we call God. And God is a word, a name for this mystery that holds everything, in whom we live and move and have our being. This one who brings us together in community, a place to belong, who holds us in life and death, who journeys with us. This one who gives us a sense of worth and being. We are all children of God, says Paul in many places. We are children of God, and we're all equal, different, bringing something new and different to the table to share. And it's finding that inclusive community in which we can belong and know that we are loved and known and valued for who we are and what we bring. That's what faith really does to us. I was sitting the other day in Lee Memorial Church, one of the churches in the heart of Parramatta, a beautiful old church. It was empty through the week. On Sunday, there's a gathering of people, smaller than it used to be. And then I listened, and next door in the courtyard and the hall that's part of the church, there was laughter and noise, and I looked out, and there was Meals Plus. 300 people gathering through that day for meals. And it's not just about food, it's about belonging and gathering and community, of getting the support they need, of caring for one another, of receiving care and being a community, a place to belong, to gather, to eat together and to talk and catch up. And God's there. God's in the midst of that. God is not contained in our churches. And whilst our church worship may decline, God will gather us in other places, in other ways. And that is what we need to nurture. Because these can be places of peace and reconciliation and life for the world. Where there's hope, there's love, there's peace, there's belonging. And we're given the strength to go out and live in this way of love and justice that brings people together and overcomes the conflicts and violence and struggles of the world. Because that's what God is on about. God is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. Let's open our eyes, our hearts, our minds, and see the ways in which God comes to us this day and every day.